First rehearsals of the first semi-final at Eurovision 2021 have now finished in Rotterdam, which means we've got our first look at the 16 countries competing. But in this video, we're going to be thinking about which 10 songs we think will qualify from this monstrous semi-final. We'll go around all of us in just a second, but let's review Eurovision. Yes, so 16 songs are taking part in the first semi-final. It's on Tuesday, the 18th of May. They've just finished their first rehearsals. The other semi-final will do their first rehearsals, then they go back and we see a bit more of what these first semi-final songs are going to look like. So this is all just going off the time that we've had since we put our rankings in. So it's been 4 or 5 weeks probably, plus what we've seen in the really short snippets. That's what we're basing our decisions on in this. To recap really quickly, the 16 songs in the semi-final in running order are Lithuania, Slovenia, Russia, Sweden, Australia, North Macedonia and Ireland. Then we've got Cyprus, Norway, Croatia, Belgium, Israel, Romania, Azerbaijan, Ukraine and Malta. So it is a very tough semi-final to say the least. So we'll start off with Lithuania then, represented by The Roop with Discotheque. They're opening the show. Emily, is this a qualifier for you?
Yes, essentially. I do think it'll qualify, no kind of problems there. I like that they've kind of kept it the same as the national final, where they're in kind of all in yellow. So it is kind of a really eye-catching opener. So, I mean, there isn't particularly that much to kind of say on this one because it's the exact same as the national final. But for me, yeah, it's obviously kind of not changed my opinion and I still think it should qualify.
Right, so yeah, that's one qualifier down there for Emily. I will echo that exactly. There's no real change. It's exactly what we expected. They've copied and pasted pretty much their staging from the national final. It is opening the show, but it is a quirky and a sort of a bang way to open the show, and I think people will remember this definitely. The mix of purple and yellow, it's like they're contrasting colours. I think it's a really distinctive thing and people will remember it at the end. So I am not in any doubt at all that this will qualify. Yeah, it's one of my 10. James, how about you?
Well, I'm actually going to start with a U-turn, to be quite honest. I think, viewers will remember I slated it. I thought it was awful. And I put it as my number 39. Well, since seeing what they've done, I would give it a good shot. I think it will qualify. I think I'll now enjoy it more than I would have before. And I'm quite excited to see it, actually. I'm not going to lie. I think it's really grown on me since, it was our first video, wasn't it? I think. And it's so very much grown on me since then. And yeah, I actually like it now. So, I'm probably going to completely mess up my list throughout the whole of our series. But yeah, I really like it.
So it's a qualifier for all three of us then, unanimous across the board. 1 down, 9 to go. Will Slovenia enjoy the same level of enthusiasm? They're represented by Anna Soklic with Amen. Is she one of our qualifiers? Emily, back to you.
Sadly for me, my opinion kind of hasn't really changed on this one. I still think it's probably kind of one of the weaker entries in this semi-finals, and I don't think it'll qualify. I don't think it's kind of particularly memorable, although I do think it'll be kind of jousting with perhaps something like Belgium for that kind of slow song kind of place in the final. But for me, it's just kind of weak. The staging does lift it, but I'm not too keen on what she's wearing. There's kind of all in white kind of jumpsuit with a long kind of cape, and as we've all seen the Eurovision movie, a cape is clearly a recipe for disaster. But yeah, for me, my opinion hasn't really changed and I'm still not keen.
Right, so that's Emily's first failure in this semi-final. Again, I would say the same sort of thing. It's nothing. It needed staging that was memorable to save it and to give it a chance. And I don't think, certainly from the snippets and photos that we've seen, I don't think there's anything particularly special there. It's just woman standing on a plinth wearing white with a very sort of We Are the World type background, and it's something that we see every single year, and there's nothing really new to it. And I think this is, especially after the colour of Lithuania with the purple and the yellow, and the energy that they bring, I think this is going to sort of be a little bit of a lead balloon. So I really don't see any way of this qualifying, sadly. I think that she's in a bit of trouble. James, how about you?
I completely agree. I mean, before I think I give it about 36 on my ranking. I really didn't like it. That hasn't changed. I don't think the audience will get behind it. I don't think it will do well. I think I have seen in the rehearsal footage, I do think it looks quite cool with the sort of background stuff. It is a bit different, but I feel like it's got so much work to do to make up for how bad the song is that it's just not really going to cut the biscuit, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, we could be surprised by it. I highly doubt that, but you never know. That's the thing with Eurovision. But for the most part, I can't see it doing very well. I've got to be honest. It's a shame.
So it's another unanimous one then. All in for Lithuania, all out on Slovenia. How about song number 3 though? It's Manizha with Russian Woman, representing, as you may have guessed from the title, Russia. We've seen their first rehearsal. It's quite Russian doll-like. It's an interesting one, but do we think she stands a chance of qualifying? Emily?
This is one that's actually probably grown on me a lot more now that we've seen the national and kind of seen, what they're going to do with staging. I love that they've kind of made the kind of traditional dress that she wore at the beginning of the national selection. I love that they've basically kind of multiplied that by kind of 10 in size. And so it's absolutely huge and she's kind of swamped by it. But I think she's kind of so fierce and feisty that she doesn't completely get dominated by the dress. And I think she really kind of brings across that sass in the kind of bit of the performance that we've seen. So yeah, for me, it's kind of stepped it up. And I think it'll probably step up in quite a lot of people's minds. But yeah, I think it'll have no issue qualifying for the final. I think it stands out.
Well, talking about stepping up in people's minds, it has stepped up in mine. I wasn't too keen on it in the review. Do head back if you want to see that. It was one of our very, very first reviews, and I was not sold on it. It was not a Russian, an iconic Russian entry. I think it's still not an iconic Russian entry. It's not one that we're going to be talking about 15 years from now in the same way that, Sergei Lazarev, the Russian grannies. It's not that level of iconic. I think this will be going through, and that is turned around almost entirely because of the rehearsal. And I think having that, the massive dress and sort of opening up out of it, that is the type of thing that people are going to be like, whoa, and they're going to remember that. Whereas the national final footage, as we mentioned in the other video, she sort of pulled it together in about 4 days or something. It really wasn't very long. And that sort of came across. And with a bit more time to work on it, they've come up with something that is a lot more memorable, that will stick in people's minds. And my reservations, even from a few days ago, that either Russia or Ukraine would go through, not both, have now been sort of quashed. I think Russia will be going through and could end up doing fairly well in the final, actually. James, what about you?
I completely agree. I think, I already had it just outside my top 10 anyway. And so I really liked it. But seeing what they've done with it now, I just love it even more, to be quite honest with you. It gives me sort of Netta and Toy vibes. It's like that sort of thing where it's just so out there that you're like, oh my God, you can't help but love it. And it's just seeing her when she's sort of like crabbing across the stage in this massive dress, looking like one of those covers that go for a toilet roll in the UK. I love it. I think it looks so good. And I think it'll just be that sort of, like Jack said, it'll be that fun song that I think everyone just remembers now. And that's right. Quite cool, I think. And sometimes they do really well. You look at Netta and Toy, and I think if they play their cards right, they could at least get all right on the leaderboard, I think.
So the toilet roll holder is making it to the final then for all three of us. We're all in agreement so far. We'll see if that stays that way. Will Sweden be making the final? It's Tyssa with Voices. His song number 4. Is Sweden going to keep up their very, very strong qualification record? Emily?
Yes, but that doesn't mean I think it deserves to. I mean, they basically kind of copied and pasted the Melfest performance, except Tyssa now has his arms out. So I don't know if he's just trying to appeal by getting some muscles on the screen. But yeah, for me, I'm just not keen. I fundamentally don't like the song. I don't think there was anything that they could do with staging to kind of change my opinion on it. Whereas like some songs can be lifted by staging, I don't think this one can be particularly. But yeah, for me, it will qualify because it's Sweden, but I don't think it should, and I don't think it deserves to.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I still hate it, absolutely hate it with a passion. I just hate it slightly less enthusiastically than before, only because I now make a conscious effort of not listening to it, so that I can't hate it if I don't listen to it. I probably will leave the room when it's on, to be honest, because I just don't. I think it's pathetic. I really, really do. I hate the song, hate the staging, hate every single thing about it. There's not a single redeeming quality. Yada yada yada. Watch the review video, copy and paste my comments. It will be going through though, because it's Sweden, and Sweden has failed to qualify once before. And this is the riskiest thing they've sent since then. If there's one song that would have, since Anna Bergendahl in 2010, that would have not qualified, I think it is this. And I don't think it's going to do particularly well in the semi. I think it's maybe 7th or 8th. I don't think it's going to come that much higher, and it doesn't deserve to come any higher. It doesn't deserve to make the top 10, but it will. And yeah, I think the fact that it won in a landslide in Melfest sort of just shows that there is an audience for it, who are, clinically brain dead, clearly, if they think it's a good song. So it will be going through. It doesn't deserve to, but it will. James?
Yeah, I have to agree, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure the viewers will remember that back when we did this one before, I had a sort of anomalic point where I'd put this as number 14. Still don't know why I did that, because listening to it even more, I really still don't like it, to be quite honest with you, more so now than I think before. And seeing how they're sort of staging it, it looks a bit bizarre, to be quite honest. I can't really get into it. And I just feel like it's one of those ones where, like you both said, really, it's so risky, and I don't get what they're trying to do with it. I personally, I think, looking at my favourite songs in this, I think there's a risk it might not qualify. I know, on the whole, sort of, Sweden have this sort of good record, but I think if the wind blows in the right direction, it might not qualify. I don't know. And maybe that's what they would need to sort of be like, don't send a crappy entry next time. But I don't know. I just can't get into it. And I think a lot of people have the same thing, to be quite honest.
But is it in your 10 though? We've got to have a list of 10 at the end of this. Is it one of your 10 qualifiers that you think will, not what you want, but do you think it will go through?
I think it will, but I wouldn't want it to be quite honest.
Okay. Your 10. So we're on 3 qualifiers down each then, in that case. Bit of reluctance with all of us there. How about Australia? We're in a tricky boat with Australia, because obviously they're not coming to Rotterdam. They're staying down under. So we've seen a behind the scenes look at their performance. So it's hard to judge on the same level as everybody else, but we have still had more time to think about it. What do we think of Technicolour by Montaigne and Australia's entry? Emily?
I don't think the little clip of their kind of rehearsal, I don't think it gives anything away about the performance, unless it is literally all going to be quite kind of very stripped back and quite dark almost, which is strange for a song called Technicolour. I'm not sure I can kind of properly judge it yet. For me, I've kind of said that it probably will go through, because I think Australia kind of has that brand. I think for whether I think it deserves to go through will literally kind of depend if we get any more kind of information the closer we get to the contest, or what actually happens in that first semi-final. Based on kind of the song itself, I think it probably will go through, because I think it's kind of different enough, and I think Australia is getting a bit of a solid brand for going through. But yeah, I'm not sure.
So yes, it is one of your 10?
Yeah. But yeah.
It's a tentative one. So that's your 4th qualifier then. Well, our unanimity is now broken, because I don't think this will be going through. I think this is the year that Australia will not qualify. Some people have been saying the fact that she's not going to be in Rotterdam is going to be a strong point, because it will look visibly very different from everything else. I think she's going to miss the I mean, there is going to be a bit of an audience there, but I think that audience interaction she's going to miss, and it will stand out a little bit like a sore thumb unless anybody else joins her in not being able to perform on the stage. It has grown on me quite a lot, actually. The song has grown on me since then. I still don't think it's enough to go through. And I think sadly this is the year that Australia will be sitting out of the final. James, what about you?
I completely agree. I don't see this going through at all. I mean, I said before in the previous review, I can't get to like it at all. It's really not my sort of thing. I think it's trying to be something that it's not. And that something is like a sort of ghost at the back of a party. It does nothing for me. And I think as well, I think it'll be looked at as a sort of, it sounds bad, a sort of halftime show. It's like, we're going off to Australia now, they're going to be doing this performance. And then you'll come back and you'll sort of be like, okay, right, back to this year's sort of entries. I think that's how it will feel. It sounds bad, but I think that it was already a tough song to sell in the first place, I think. And so having this sort of aspect of being out of the competition as well, sort of virtually, I think that'll impact it too.
All right, so 2 saying no, 1 saying yes for Australia. What about North Macedonia, being represented by Vasil with Here I Stand? Emily, is it one of your 10?
No, absolutely not. It's kind of, the staging brings it up to an extent, but I still think the song is crap. It just isn't, it just doesn't feel Eurovision-y. And I get that, you know, maybe something that's a bit different can sometimes do well, but yeah, for me, they have done a lot with the staging, and I appreciate the kind of effort that's gone into it. But for me, the song itself is the problem, and the staging can't fix it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I also have a problem with the staging, to be honest. I was quite respectful. It was my number 37, I think, when we did the review video. And I was quite respectful about it because I'm aware that he's got quite a lot of abuse for having what looked like a Bulgarian flag in his music video, and people were trying to cancel him. It was just a bit over the top. And I was nice, and I said, at least he can sing it well. He can still sing it well. But I have absolutely no time or respect for plagiarists. And the end staging, and we've seen photos of it, is a carbon copy of the staging by Dotter from Bulletproof, right? It's a Melfest performance from 2020. Some of the best staging performance I have ever seen. It was brilliant. She's got light beams reflecting off her chest, which is like a sort of a mirror ball effect. Utterly incredible staging. But a lot of Eurovision viewers are never going to have seen that because she didn't win Melfest. She came second and lost by a point. So now they will see it on a shit song. And he has ruined some of the best staging for any entry I've ever seen because he's used it in a tiny little bit at the end of his song to try and lift a song that was never any good. I have absolutely no respect for this, for the entry, for him as a musician anymore, because plagiarism is just, I have no respect for it at all. Like, please do not even arrive at the Rotterdam Arena. You do not deserve to be on that stage, let alone make it through to the final. It is a disgrace, and there's no way this is making it through because it doesn't deserve to. And I do not want to see it anywhere near the final. End of. James.
On that note, I agree, to be fair. Yeah, it was never really up there for me anyway. And watching what we've seen so far of the rehearsals and things, to me, it looks like his background is just that sort of Windows music player. You've got those sound bars just bouncing in the back. That's all he's done, really. And then you've got that sort of disco ball strapped to his chest. And I'm not really a big fan. I didn't really like it before, to be fair. I think it's a bit over-egged. But yeah, I mean, everything I think about has been said pretty much already by the two of you. So yeah, I don't think it will do well at all.
So joining Slovenia in the no qualification club. What about Ireland, though? Maps by Leslie Roy. She's got some pretty creative staging, apparently. Quite hard to see in that little video, but what do we think of it, Emily?
Yeah, I was going to pick up on that point because obviously the video of the rehearsal that's gone up, you aren't seeing the effects the staging or special effects are going to have. So I find it quite kind of difficult to visualize what it's actually going to kind of be like. But I think people who have seen the impact the special effects have says that it's actually kind of lifted the performance quite a lot. So for me, this is probably one of my changes. I think in my review, I said I wasn't sure whether it'd qualify. I think because if the staging is kind of impressive, is as impressive as people are kind of saying it is, then I think it will qualify. So I put it down as a qualifier.
Dishing out them qualification cards like there's no tomorrow, is Emily. So that's your fifth qualifier then for Ireland going through. I'm bearing in mind what people have said about it, and obviously we haven't seen a full performance because we're not there. And I'm bearing in mind what people are saying. I just don't think the song is strong enough. I really, really don't. And some people love it, but I don't think it's that memorable. And maybe having staging that's a bit different will lift it, but I just can't see a path for it, really, especially when, if it was in the second semi, then it probably would. But this is such a hard semi, and there are 10 songs that I think stand out and will stand out more than this. So I don't think this is going through. But I appreciate the effort that Ireland's putting into this, because they are clearly trying to turn around a pretty shitty qualification record. So please carry on with that and don't let this deter you. But it's the victim of a very strong semi. And James?
I actually have completely changed what I thought of it, because I think in my last review of it, I was sort of saying I didn't really get it, didn't like it, wasn't a big fan. Well, actually seeing what I've seen now and having listened to it more and more, it's really grown on me, actually. And I think, like Emily was saying, that it looks like there's some really cool effects going to be done. I noticed like they sort of almost got 2 pieces of paper, I think, up against the camera. So it looks like perhaps, it'll be all camera trickery and stuff. And I love that sort of thing. So I think more than anything, it's just exciting to see what they do with it. And I think that could set them apart. I think it could be something a little bit different. And yeah, it's really grown on me. I didn't think I'd be saying that, but it really has. And I think the music as well, I don't know if it's because now we're getting closer and because she's maybe starting to find herself more live, but it just feels like it's got a whole new dynamic to it, which is quite nice. And it's a bit more refreshing and a bit more enthusiasm, I think is the word. But yeah, I think it'll do well.
There we are. So I'm the outlier on that one then. There's 2 people saying Ireland will go through. I disagree. What about Cyprus, though? El Diablo by Elena Sagrinu. It's very red staging, but will she be seeing red if she doesn't make it through? Emily?
I think this is quite interesting because Cyprus kind of tried so hard to distance itself from its devil worshipping criticism that it got from the Orthodox Church, and yet the performance is basically kind of all her backing dancers look like they are essentially dressed up as the devil. So I don't know whether they're deliberately trying to antagonize the church or what with it, but I think it'll go through, essentially. That's kind of my overarching kind of view of it. And I think she seems to sing it well live, which sometimes Cyprus has maybe struggled with in the past, with kind of how their live singers actually perform kind of vocally. But yeah, I'm not wowed by the staging. It's not really something it's something we've seen, 100 times before, but I think it'll be fine. It'll go through.
Well, before I saw the staging this morning, I was actually getting a little bit worried that this would be one of, and you'll see the other ones as well, one of the shock non-qualifiers this year, because I just thought, as a song, will it stand out enough? And I think with the staging, having seen it, the mirror effect and all the fire and all the pyro, I think this will definitely stand out now. And my worries, having seen it, have now gone away. So I think this will be going through. James?
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like it as well. I think, like Emily was saying, I'm fairly sure that they have dressed them the way they have on purpose. I think they're sort of they know it's slightly controversial. I think they know it's going to get people talking about it. And I think they hope that that's what will carry them through, because people who are sort of the rebellious ones will be going, oh my God, they hate this. We've got to put it through, or we hate it. We'll vote for them all night. And I think that's what will happen. It's a dangerous game because it could backfire and go the other way. But, the way Eurovision sometimes can be, it can pay off. but it does look, it looks really quite fun. I mean, it looks almost, might be a bit bold, Madonna-esque in a way. It's just so out there, so sort of like mad at times. And you've got that sort of, in the rehearsal footage, the really cool sort of sloping set, which reminds me a bit of sort of Russian entry with You're the Only One. But yeah, I really like it. I think it'll sail through, to be quite honest with you.
So that is it for this first part of the video. It went on quite a lot longer than we were anticipating, so we're going to split it into two. This was the first half of our preview, of our prediction with the first 8 songs. The other 8 will be in the next video, so do stick around for that. Hopefully you stick around and enjoy the rest of our rankings. But thank you very much for watching. If you agree with us, disagree with us, like, subscribe, dislike if you want, comment. But if you do subscribe, make sure you hit the bell notification to get notified every time we upload new content. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Just use @reveurovision. You'll find us there. We upload little video snippets. Go for it all on there. But again, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you later for the second half of our semi-final 1 preview.